Today we're talking about B&R Automation's X20 Fieldbus I/O integrated with RS Logix. We're going to give you a demo of how it's integrated between the two software packages.
The first thing you would do when configuring B&R I/O to use with in the RS Logix platform would be to open up Fieldbus Designer and then create a new project. So after you name the project, it'll ask you to go ahead and name a configuration, and by default you're going to define a new hardware configuration. So we'll go ahead and continue to work through this wizard. The next question is what Fieldbus are you using and what kind of master do you need to install into the project? In this example we'll do an Ethernet IP CPU, so this would be a compact Logix, for example. And then we'll finish this, and what you're going to see is in our workspace over here, an Ethernet IP CPU will be brought into the project. Within Fieldbus Designer software, right-click is really going to be our most useful tool. So you can right-click on this and open up the Ethernet IP port. And then again, right-click underneath it, and what we do here is insert the Ethernet IP slave adapter. So in this case, it's an X20 bus controller 0088. So after we import that into the project, our physical view, you can see that there's an Ethernet IP CPU in the system, as well as an Ethernet IP slave, and then by default it puts in the power supply module to feed power to the rack of I/O. Next, you'd want to open up the X2X link by right-clicking on the bus controller. And this is actually where we can start inserting B&R I/O modules. So we'll just insert a couple examples here. Do a 12-point digital input card. Again, you right-click, insert, and you can see the list of all of B&R I/O here in this hardware tree. So after we go ahead and select all of this I/O, we'll be able to configure it as well as name each channel or point. And then we'll be able to see all that data or all that information we've configured come up in the RS Logix platform. So now that we've built the I/O rack, we're able to right-click on the specific module that we want to configure. And we can either open up the I/O mapping or open up the I/O configuration. If we open up the I/O mapping, this is actually where you can label what your channels are. So we'll just go ahead and call this Photo I1, and we can name these down the line. So Photo 2, and I'll also leave some blanks so we can see how they look in RS Logix. So say we went through and named everything, and you could do that for analog signals as well as the digital signals. And then if you right click and open up the I/O configuration, this is actually where you can set the upper and lower limits of the analog channel. And you can also set the signal type of that channel between plus or minus 10 volts, 0 to 20 milliamps, and 4 to 20 milliamps. And each one of these channels can be set to something different, so there's no need to go get a new card for different signal types. So now, say we have all the I/O configured, as well as all of our variables named, we would come up here and do a build. And what this is actually doing is generating a text document that'll tell you all your assembly instance sizes, as well as all of your offsets, and give you all of your Ethernet IP mapping. It'll also generate an L5K file for us. So what we're able to do is open up RS Logix and open that L5K file in RS Logix. So we'll go to my computer, hard drive, and find my projects folder. Find the project that I just created. Look in the output folder, and you can actually see that L5K file sitting right here. you can even select the version of your controller right down there. So now if you look at the generic Ethernet module in this project, you can view the properties, and you can see that it says vendor Allen Bradley, but in fact this is BNR IO in the system. You can set the IP address of the slave module here, and you can also view the assembly instance sizes of this bus controller or the slave adapter. The IO and all of the registers are going to come up in the controller tags portion. Under ST1 INP, you'll have all of our inputs. Here you can see the registers that I actually labeled. So these are the tag names that I made in Fieldbus Designer. And this is how it would look like if we left them generic. It'll just tell us that this is a digital input and it's this channel. If we scroll down, we'll be able to view all of our outputs that we have in the system by clicking here. So now you know where all the I/O is mapped. You can easily open up the program and start programming BNR I/O within RS Logix. So by double clicking here, you can see here's the input section in the controller tags, and we can go ahead and select the appropriate I/O. You're now able to program the BNR I/O within RS Logix just like you would if this was, in fact, Allen Bradley I/O.
For more information, contact us at www.ifp1.com.